You know, it's funny about having David Hochberg as a friend. Last night we're talking on the phone, and it's a perfectly innocent conversation, but we're talking as dads, and in my case, a dad and a grandfather. And worrying about our kids, worrying about our, my grandkids' futures and all that. And by the time the conversation's getting to an end, we're yelling at each other. We're just yelling at each other back and forth because you got to get it out somehow. You got to just, the volume's got to go up because you got to get it out there.
We were talking loudly. We weren't yelling.
That's
true. The difference.
That's true. On a Hochberg
with passion.
That's true. On a Hochberg scorecard, there is no yelling.
So you guys are actually on the phone. You're not texting. This is like a yelling conversation.
You can't text
a loud convo.
You can't text that much cursing in a short order.
Our fingers would fall off.
All caps would break.
David Hochberg is here for all things related to Team Hochberg. How do people get a hold of you?
Simple. You go to our website, 855-56. You go to our website, 56david.com, or you can give us a call, 800 number, toll-free number, 888.
How about 855-56David?
Wow. 855-56David. This coffee hasn't kicked in yet.
Wow.
All right, Nick, stay in your lane. 855-56David.
Worst plug ever.
Yeah. You gave me that 3-2 fastball. I just completely fell on my face.
Andrea?
Edit that out.
Well, I want to talk about mortgage rates near 8% right now, and the demand at the lowest level in almost 3 decades.
Yeah, way to kick me in the groin.
I'm sorry.
When I'm down.
I know.
You got to steel. Do you want to put steel-toe boots on now? I figure I'd start
like bad, and then we'll get
progressively worse.
No, the only way to go is up, right?
Yeah, listen. It's a jailbreak now. I was talking to Steve yesterday. It seems like we're living a Tom Clancy novel, like we're going through the first 100 pages and we're waiting to get to the next 400 to see how this thing ends. There are just so many different factors coming into play. You've got not record inflation, but inflation is coming into play. You've got economic discontent, if you will, with all the nonsense going on with Washington. You've got forces going on around the world with the war in Ukraine impacting pricing, with food impacting pricing for farmers, with their fertilizer. I mean, I didn't think about this till I had a lunch. I had dinner with a friend of mine, right? He's a doctor. He came from Central Illinois. His parents owned a ton of farmland down there. He inherited it when his parents passed away. And he's like, we're having a steak like we do every once in a while. He's like, man, have you seen the cost of fertilizer? I'm like, why the hell would I even monitor the cost of fertilizer? I'm like, no, Doc, I haven't seen the cost of fertilizer. Why don't you fill me in? He's like, he's telling me the cost of fertilizer has gone up exponentially, which, I'm smart. I'm like, well, that's going to roll down to everybody that buys corn or anything that's got to do with wheat or soybean. Your cereal's going to go up. Your feed for your cattle and your chickens.
See, that's one of the reasons it's important. It's one of the reasons it's important to talk to you about this stuff, because it's all interconnected. You might hear the words mortgage rates. You go, well, I'm not buying a house. You understand the flow of money in an economy is determined by certain foundational factors, and one of which is the price of your home that you pay for a home or to refi your home. That's the money supply. That's the economy.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a big deal.
The fuel that goes into the car that's in the garage of your home, right? The cost of energy to power your home. I mean, all of that, the cost of food that you bring into your home or apartment.
But I remember sitting in your office, during COVID, because that's where I went during COVID. Right. I went to Hochberg's office.
In our hazmat suits, talking through microphones.
And I said to David,
yeah.
No, I said to David, when does this end? And you were of a mind, and you talk to everybody. You talk to experts. You're not afraid to ask the questions. Obviously, you're an expert as well in this. And you figured we were about 18 months, somewhere in there, and the dam would break. Not only has the dam not broken and the rates have not come down, I'm almost of a mind now to say, okay, well, let's crank it up to 10%. And see if that wakes people up, and then that stops it. What breaks the fever?
I really don't know. You've got some very smart people out there. Bill Gross, the co-chairman of PIMCO, the largest bondholder in the world. You've got Jamie Dimon. We all know Jamie Dimon, Chase Manhattan Bank. Both Bill Gross and Jamie Dimon, who I would put toe-to-toe with anybody in the financial world, are saying that they see rates in the 5s and in the 7s. And what I had to That's the money that they're lending out. Now, what our listeners need to understand is you've got to put a margin on top of that, right? So when they're saying 5, it used to be 200 basis points or 2 points above the current 10-year. Right now, over the past 16 months, it's gone from 200 basis points to 300 basis points. So the spread has increased because the demand and the competition isn't there. So the spread's increased. I don't want to get too deep into the woods.
But it creates a perfect storm because the interest rates are too high for people to buy and sell houses. Right. You have to buy and sell houses for the interest rates to come down. So where's your chicken? Where's your egg?
Correct, and that's a challenge. So when they say a 5-year,
maybe we refinance the chicken.
Well, maybe you got to kill the chicken, right, and create a new chicken.
Kill the chicken.
You need a new recipe for the chicken.
The price of eggs.
No, kill
Don't
the chicken.
choke the chicken.
Kill the chicken.
Right, that's a whole other show.
That's wrong.
That's after 12.
That's
after
the
midnight.
in the 90s. I regret I said it.
Yeah, but here when Jamie Dimon and Bill Gross say that they're seeing rates at 5 to 7%. What does that mean for interest rates? That's an 8 to 10% interest rate. That's what it translates to me in the business. Okay, so I just talked to a guy who's on Chicago radio. I've been doing his loans for 20 years. He's like, I sent an email out like, hey, I'm got to cut back a little bit. Adverse market conditions, nothing personal, right? I didn't want anybody to think I'm doing this, because they did anything wrong. He's like, damn, I was looking to buy a home. I'm like, well, here's a silver lining, right? If you're looking to buy a home with these increased rates, number one, you're going to eventually start seeing price de-escalation. Okay, and you're also going to be able to negotiate closing cost credits, which I strongly recommend because we could take that closing cost credit and use it to cover your costs and go into buy downs, which are fully refundable if you use us to do your loans. And I don't want to go too deep into the weeds, but it's a huge value to you. You can buy out PMI. You can do a ton of things, okay? And then eventually what's going to happen? Okay, you're going to see rates decrease. And I've been doing business with a guy for 20 years. Right? I refinanced you 15 times, right? 5, 6 times. I've refinanced this guy 4 or 5 times. I helped him buy 3 properties. Okay, so the long and the short of it, I'm like, dude, listen, if people are still buying homes and we at 7.75, 7.5 today, when they get to 8, people are still going to be buying homes.
Right.
And eventually you're going to come to a point where prices are going to stop escalating incrementally as they, exponentially as they have, and you're going to start seeing a stabilization of pricing.
And this is where it gets dangerous.
Supply and demand.
We got to take a break, come back, and we'll hit the other side. But this is where it gets dangerous because politics can control the fix or make it much worse.
Right.
Yes, it can.
So
it has.
We're going to have David come back and see if we can. And we're hooking him up to some monitors right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to see if he can address the politics side of why you're getting screwed. Coming up on the other side of the
I'm going to look up my phone number and website so I don't screw that up when we come back.
All right. David Hochberg's here, 312-591-8900. Our number, his number, let's see if he's got the plug down now, is?
855-56-DAVID, 56david.com.
Look at you, you big boy.
And you could call Nick Gale for references, and he'll be more than happy to give me references.
I'll give you a reference.
I'll tell you what, what Brett just said about commercial real estate, you want an overhang on this market? In the next 18 years, you've got trillions of dollars of commercial real estate.
18 years or 18 months?
I'm sorry, 18 months. Yeah. I got my website and my phone number, right? I screwed up there. Yeah. Months and years. You got 18 months. In the next 18 months, you have trillions of dollars of commercial notes coming due because the commercial mortgages are usually 5 or 7 years and they're amortized over 20. All that paper.
So you could pick up a building.
You could pick up a lot of buildings. It's going to be like Monopoly down here. Yeah. You can pick up a lot of buildings.
Oh, by the way, speaking of buildings.
I got a building question. And, first of all, you know everything about real estate.
Well, let's not go crazy. I know a lot.
You're the guru.
Okay, so I know a lot.
What would the feasibility be of perhaps, there's a lot of empty buildings in Chicago, a lot of vacant buildings. You've done even stories like, dollar, lots being sold for $1. What would the feasibility be of perhaps, or maybe an idea of placing some migrants in some of the vacant homes that are still
vacant buildings?
Vacant buildings,
vacant buildings, not homes, but vacant buildings.
Listen, They're here
with some restoration. Let me say, of course,
Okay.
The plumbing and.
So you have a immigration challenge. Our country has an immigration challenge. We all know we have an immigration challenge, and I'm glad our mayor is going to go down to the border to inspect it himself. He could turn on any TV station and save the taxpayers of Chicago thousands of dollars. This jackass. Okay, so and that's my official term.
We don't know when he's going.
But he should.
Neither does he.
He either does. He doesn't even realize he's the mayor yet. Okay, till Tony Preckwinkle sticks her fist up his. Yeah. I mean, it's whatever. Okay, so when Tony Preckwinkle says he could go to Florida, down to Texas, he could go.
Go.
Okay, so the challenge that you have here is this: where are you going to house the migrants that are coming to our state? Okay, that's a problem. Do you put them in field houses in local communities and take the field houses away from the local communities that have soccer practice and volleyball practice? Existing programs within that community that community paid for and is using every single day. I talked to coaches that use that building up on the north side, on the northwest side, that where are they going to go to have their practices to coach their kids up?
You heard that story as well. You've heard that story about community centers, but also nobody knows more cops than you do. And the idea that these immigrants are living in precincts.
It's ridiculous.
Is even more egregious than living at O'Hare and Midway.
So here, if we could build tent cities here, number one, why don't we fix the problem? Okay, that's got to do with the challenge that we have with the broken government. And I'm not saying Democrat, Republican. It's just broken.
Yep.
Get in a room, fix it. You're adults. Get in the room. Keep your phones on the outside. Don't send any tweets. Don't ask for any money. Just fix the freaking problem. Okay, so you're going to bring them up here. And they're already here. They're coming up, according to a source of mine. I'm sure you've got sources.
Yep.
A plane at a time.
Yeah. 22 buses yesterday.
One plane a day is landing at one of our airports with migrants coming up from Texas. Okay, great. So what are you going to do? Let's see. I've been living in Chicago since I was 7 years old. You're going to put them in tents in Chicago in the wintertime. I mean, what?
Insane.
What are we doing? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. If we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to build tent cities here, and we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to fix empty schools and empty buildings, right? Why don't we just spend all of that money, invest that money to solve the problem where the problem's happening? So all you're doing is, spreading it around. Should you take empty buildings and put migrants in those? Listen. My family came here, immigrants, right? We went through Ellis Island.
Yes,
we followed the rules to go through Ellis Island. When my grandparents came here from Poland, my grandparents came here from Russia because we were getting persecuted because I'm still Jewish, they were Jewish. Okay, they were getting killed, and so they came. Fine, but there were rules to come to our country.
No, listen, but dude, you're not wrong about that. You're not wrong. You're absolutely right about that. However,
where do you put them?
You got to put the fire out now.
100%.
And the truth of the matter is you have to deal with the problem that's in front of you. And the problem is we continue to have immigrants. We don't have housing for them. All the solutions that are out there now are bad.
It's bad.
So I don't know why we can't take empty city-owned facilities.
100%. Fix them up.
Right.
Put beds in them.
And make them livable because it's the humane thing to do. On top of the fact that it's the prudent thing to do.
Because we have faulty government leadership here. We have faulty leaders of our government here that can't see through the box. It's the same reason, Steve.
They don't care to.
And Andrea, we have 25% of brown fields in Cook County. I say this ad nauseum for the past 10 years. We have empty spaces where factories used to be. That's the definition of a brown field that we can take and build. I was in a building across the street, and there were two union guys having a coffee next to me. I was having a coffee. I'm like, hey, can I ask you a question? I'm like, how busy are you guys? Is it still busy? The guy who was the 45th birthday yesterday rolled his eyes, said, we are swamped. The 25-year-old apprentice nodded his head. He's not allowed to talk because he's an apprentice. I go, let me ask you a question. I go, how much money are you making? Because I do a lot of union loans. I said, are you making about $40,000 a year? He's like, yeah, I make $19 an hour. One more year, I'm going to jump to $36 to $40 an hour. Kid's 25 years old, no college debt. He's going to be making 75 G's a year next year. With kids coming out of college are going to have $50,000 to $250,000 worth of student loan debt. I'm like, are you still busy? He's like, we're swamped. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, there are factories in the city right now doing sheet metal work right now. working 12 5s and a 6 and an 8 on a Saturday. Okay, so they're getting over six, and they can't find people to make the ductwork to put into these huge buildings downtown. I go, the buildings downtown, they're empty. Why are you guys putting money into it? He's like, you don't understand is these buildings need to be maintained. And every 20 to 30 years, they have to replace all of their heating and air conditioning system. I'm like, okay, what does that cost? $2 to $4 million. Guy rolled his eyes. He's like 20 to 30. Not only do you have to replace the units if you could get them, because it takes now 9 months, even though they tell you 6 months. So there's still a supply chain. He's like, you got to replace the coolers, you got to replace the chillers, you got to replace. He's talking Chinese to me, right? And so you got to. So he's like, we got work. We don't know what to do with. There's not enough people.
There's not enough
to
bodies
fill these
to do
spaces.
it. And to me, the overwhelming, the gong of the bell for this story is, you don't need to send your kid to a 4-year college if they don't have to go to college.
Absolutely.
Put them in a trade.
Yes.
Put them in a trade.
Yes.
Especially
and our city colleges are great tutors.
If they have an aptitude for it and an interest in it, you're going to do them a favor of a lifetime.
I'll tell you what.
You're going to save yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars.
You got a plane load of migrants coming to Chicago every single day.
Train them.
Okay. No. Exactly. Train them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Train them to be sheet metal workers. Give them a job.
Yes.
And
Give
then
them a
put them
skill.
in line behind the people who are citizens and make them earn their citizenship.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that. We just solved the problem. How crazy.
Because the people
2
here,
minutes we did.
people here don't want to work. So if they're if they want to come to the United States and they want legally, right? You could speed track the immigration process, train them up, get them into these factories, and because you bring more workers in, right? That's how you knock down inflation.
Right.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Hochberg, Campaign 2024.
God.
A sitting ovation.
I'm white and have a white wife, by the way, and my kids are white too. I guess the mayor said something about that.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, we have to declare that. It's a little out of context. We've got to play the clip for you.
Yeah.
I have a wife, I have children, they have schedules. And plus, we still have public safety that we have to address. We still have the unhoused that we have to address. I still have a budget that I have to address. And I'm doing all of that with a black wife raising 3 black children on the west side of the city of Chicago. I am going to the border as soon as possible.
David Hochberg, 855-56-DAVID or
56david.com.